for inviting us back, and for everyone who have been joining us for the previous events and supporting us today again. Thank you so much to everyone. So if you have been joining us, you know what we're going through. So if you have been joining us, then do bear with me. But yeah, my name is Hill, and I'm the marketing manager for General Assembly Singapore. So I lead all of marketing for GA in Singapore. So for those of you who have just joined us and is wondering what GA is all about, Simon, you can move on to the next slide. We are a global tech education company, and we focus on helping people to reskill and upskill themselves in the most in-demand tech skills. So of course, coding being one of them, but we also do have courses in data, design, digital marketing, and product management. So if you're interested to break into tech and you're looking to make that switch, we might be the one that you want to go to. So I think just a couple of stats on us. We have been around for around 10 years now. This year is our 10-year anniversary. We have more than 30 global campuses worldwide. So of course, in the APAC region, we have Singapore, but we also do have sister campuses in Australia as well. Up to date, we have around 70,000 course alumni, people who have gone through our course and been able to make a break into tech. More than 500,000 workshop attendees. So workshops are usually shorter. So if you just want to pop in, join us for short workshops, we do have those as well. And we also work with more than 20,000 expert instructors like Simon himself, to help you to make that switch into whichever function you want to break into. So moving on, so this is just some number for GA Singapore. So we have been around from mid-2015. So this year, we are around 7 years old this year. We also have more than 1,000 immersive and part-time graduates. So these refer to the longer courses for you to, break into tech, or also just to equip yourself with a future-proof skill. We also have more than 5,000 workshop participants. On top of that, we also do have free community events that we do on a weekly basis for you to, get to know what is happening in tech today, and just to keep yourself updated with that. On a partnership level, we also have very strong partnership with the IMDA office, which is the Infocom Media Development Authority, our employers, and also the tech community as well. So a little bit more on our courses. So we do have two types of courses. Longer courses. So there are career transforming courses. So for example, you're currently working in a completely different field, but you want to break into any of these fields that I'm listed over here. You can come and take a full-time course with us, which Simon actually taught our software engineering courses. But we also do have data science course, digital marketing, and UX design one as well. So some of them are a little bit more flexible. You can do either 12 or 24 week, but some are just limited to 12 week at the moment. So moving on to part-time courses. So for example, you're not 100% sure that you want to completely break into tech or completely switch into a different function, but you just want to, equip yourself with a skill to make yourself more competitive in the job market today. For example, you just want to pick up data analytics, or you want to pick up Python programming, for example. We also do have part-time courses that you can usually take in the evening, as well as on Saturday, to just equip yourself with a very future-proof set of skills. And talking about all of that. So I know that this is a very brief one. I will have more information for you later on, but if you have any further questions, you can always reach out to us via our email over there, frontlines.sg. I'll also drop that in the chat later on. But if you just want to look out for some of our events coming up, you can also follow us on our social media to check out what's happening in GA Singapore. And talking about exciting things that are happening in GA Singapore, Someone, you can move on to the next slide. We are oops, sorry, not this one. But yeah, I just want to quickly shout out that we do have our first event series of the year, Break into Tech, happening next week. All of the events in there are free, and we actually do have a lot of taster classes for all of our different courses. So intro to UX design, coding, digital marketing, and software engineering. So if you are keen to just want to find out what exactly is the field about, how do you break into that field, and what you should equip yourself with, then you can join us for that event as well. I'll drop everything in the chat later on. And with that, I will not take any more of your time. I will pass over the time to Simon to walk us through our intro to coding session. Over to you, Simon.
Right, thank you, Hong. All right, so as Hong mentioned, I'm one of the software engineering instructors who teach the full-time course. So I'm here to help you through this intro to coding experience. Okay, maybe okay, just to take note of what this course is about. At the end of this class, right, you'll be able to know what's the purpose of a web developer and what do they actually do from a day to day. All right. Hopefully you would also, this is also a hands-on session where you will actually practice some essential coding, HTML and CSS. Okay. But as a point of note, it's just a beginner's version, all right, because we only have an hour and a half here, so you don't expect we can squeeze everything into that. But you'll definitely have some hands-on that you can try. And finally, at the end of this, probably you can see that if this interests you, you can see, if, like what Hong says, a new pathway into various new skills or even a career in web development. Okay, right. What we're going to cover is what you see on the left-hand side, right? What is web development? What's the difference between the front end and the back end? And what's the basis of HTML and CSS? And where do we go from here? Okay, but to keep in mind, like I said, this is an intro class, right? So we are working on a very foundation level. So for some of you, I think you're coming in with already some coding background. In this case, this seminar might feel a little bit too simplistic for you. And for those of you who have no experience at all, don't worry, because we will guide you through how to actually do some simple coding along the way. So don't worry. Okay, don't worry even if you can't get the exercises done, because at the end we will just hand you over the solution so that you can go home and review it on your own. In addition, we also have some time for Q&A at the end, right? But in the meantime, I hope you understand there's also the Q&A function in the webinar. So if you have any questions, you don't have to wait until the end. You could always just post them as and when you like into the Q&A, and whenever there's a break, either me or my colleague Hong will just answer them as needed. Okay, so what is web development anyway, right? Okay, from the outside, it may look like coding is this magical skill, right? You know, just like Hermione in Harry Potter. By the way, it's if you've not seen the, I think they just showed their 20th anniversary of the first Harry Potter, right, over HBO, right? Yeah, that documentary. So it's been 20 years since Harry Potter. Okay, right, and so coding is this magical skill that you have no idea what's actually going on inside, right? Okay. Having said that, just like movies, the magic happens, but in reality, it's not so magical most of the time. What you're going to do is that when you demystify what it is to be a web developer, what you're doing is essentially just editing text. You're just writing something in this particular programming language, right? In this case, HTML and CSS. And unfortunately, for like most things, if you don't do it correctly, you will get it wrong, and then you'll start crying and then you spend your time fixing the problems, right? So as a beginner, this happens quite a fair bit. So just a bit of warning up front. Okay. But don't worry, this is an intro class, so we'll definitely get you through at least the basics of this. Okay, another view of web development. Web development is the creation and management of both websites and web-based applications. Okay, so this involves usually two major things, right? For example, the front end, right? The front end is what most people call the look and feel, right? So as a user, I think most of you have seen websites, and what you see from the website is the front end, right? You can visually see it in your browser, on your phone, and that's the application that you see. However, a lot of people don't notice there's also the back end that you can see, and that's everything that communicates between the database as well as the web browser. Okay, maybe to illustrate this a little bit further, let's go through some explanation with a detailed example. Okay, right. Yeah. So the example comes with this. Okay. So the front end encompasses a website's applications visuals, right? The structure and stuff, right? It not only shows us how to make the website look good, it also includes things like accessibility. Accessibility is a big word, but actually has to do with the fact of how do you access the website. This is important, especially in our current age where we're trying to be inclusive, right? So some people have, visual impairments, or they have unable to have fine motor skills, they can't control a mouse, all right? So in that case, your website should still be visible or at least usable by them, all right, even though they have these issues, right? So we call this lumped under accessibility, okay? And ideally, it should be cross-browser, so it works no matter which browser you're using, whether you're on a Mac or Windows, whether you're using Safari, IE, Chrome, or the new Edge, etc. These should all just work correct, or even on your phone as well. Okay, so having said that, let's walk through this simple example of front end and back end, right? So imagine this is you, right? You are looking at your checking account, right? So what you do here is you're basically going to press this button to see what's how much money you have made, right? So we're going to do that in a short while, okay? Okay, in the front end, all right, they are made out of three major parts, right? HTML, CSS, as well as JavaScript. Okay, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Okay, so actually, okay, I'm going to paste a link into the chat. Okay, this basically shows you a short intro. Okay, you can read it at your leisure next time. All right. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Give me a while. Right. Yeah. So this is from W3 Schools, right? So this is one of those easier to read parts, right? So okay, that's for HTML, and CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, all right? Which I'll place another link for this. Okay. Okay, so in actual fact, HTML is more like the bones of your website, right? They denote the structure, all right? They may not look very nice, all right, but basically they show where things are, like your head is on top of your chest, your arms are beside your rib cage, etc. Right? So that's how HTML is structured. For CSS, as you can see in this example here, CSS is actually showing you how to color up your website to make it more colorful, you know, to add the red color, the stylings and everything. And ultimately, we're going to do JavaScript, okay, which allows you to make your website dynamic. Unfortunately, because this is a intro class, we won't have much time to, in fact, we don't have any time to show you much about JavaScript. So unfortunately, you just have to leave that for something else. Okay, right. This is another way to look at it, right? So from this point, we need the combination of all three to get it for your website to look nice, right? So HTML is the directions on the website on how you should display it. CSS is the style that we add, and JavaScript adds the interactive elements, okay? But in this session, unfortunately, we'll just be practicing HTML and CSS. Okay, so let's take a look at the backend, right? So what goes on behind the scenes, the cut that you don't see, the logic, the architecture of the code, this is the backend, right? So if you're going with the example of the body, if you remember just now I was showing you this body example, then the backend will be, you know, your internal organs, the things that keep you alive, the functioning, right? Okay, so to do that, let's run through the example that we saw just now. Okay, so in this example, what we're going to do is this person is going to click on this checking button that you see down here. Okay. Right. So when he clicks, obviously, it will start loading. All right. The HTML, the page itself, right, the front end communicates with this back end. Okay. In our example, our back end is written in Python. Right. It could be different languages, but let's just take it as written in Python for now. So the information will go this way. There's a communication from HTML to Python. Then from there, the backend will communicate with the server. So obviously, as you probably imagine, when you're checking your account information isn't in your browser, isn't in your phone, it's in the server, the machine that the bank holds all the information of your account. All right, so this is in the backend. All right, so this server will be, let's say for example, it's DBS Bank, then this server will be on their premise or in the cloud somewhere where you can actually access. Right, so using an arrow to delineate, this actually communicates with the server this way. Okay. And then the server will send some information back to the user. So this information is then re-rendered back in the front end. Okay, so if you can see in the next slide, that will actually then show you your checking account. Obviously, most of you, this happens in an instant, right? It's bad. In Singapore, we are blessed with very fast internet. So most of you, if you just click a button, within seconds, you'll be able to see your checking account balance, okay? But actually, this is the process that actually takes place. Okay, let me clear the annotations first. Okay. Okay, so these are some of the languages to make up the backend, all right? Note, these languages are always evolving, so there's always new things to learn, right? So in the example just now, we demonstrated, or we were actually talking about Python, right? So that's one of the backends. In GA Singapore, for example, we have actually evolved, right? Previously in the SCI course, we used to teach Ruby as our backend, okay? But because in Singapore, most companies don't actually use Ruby so much as compared to the other things. So what we have done is that we have actually shifted in our case to actually use Python. So we are teaching them Python in the hopes that they will be able to get a job easier in the industry because there are more companies that are using Python than say Ruby. Okay, but of course this is just a guess, right? As the years go by, maybe in 5 or 10 years time, things will shift. Like I think some of you noticed, I don't know how you know that, like in this year, this month, right, BlackBerry has died, right? Because we no longer support, there are no longer any more updates. So, but 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you ask anybody, do you think BlackBerry will be dead? I don't think anybody would have thought so. So as you can see, tech moves along pretty fast, right? So these are the other languages, PHP, Java, or Microsoft SQL Server, right? Okay, sorry, just let me clear the annotations and I'll move on. Okay, so from this point, we'll take a closer look at HTML, all right? Okay, if you look closely at HTML, without HTML, a page has nothing, right? HTML, the bones of the front end, provides us the structure and look of the website. So in this case, we are going to use the New York Times as an example, right? So HTML provides us the headers. So you can see this page compared to the previous page. The difference is that there are now extra headers that you can see here, right? So these headers are controlled by HTML. All right, this includes also the text body and its placements and its fonts, right? So that's the other thing. And surprisingly for some people, images are also controlled by HTML. So these images that we see, whether is it here or this smaller one here, these are all placed by HTML. Okay, and not forgetting the most important thing. Okay, I don't know if you noticed the small change between this and the last page. The small change was that we have these hyperlinks added. So hyperlinks, which I'm sure everybody has seen, these are links that link you to another page, and these are all also done by HTML. So just as a precursor, we are going to do something like this. We're going to build a small little web page across our exercise in a short while. All right. Let me just clear this again. Okay. So before we can actually start building, I need to tell you how to do it, right? So in this case, HTML is made out of text, right? So this is the text that you see on the right-hand side. You can think of them as the double caret sign. Okay, this tells the browser how to format their content. Okay, let's take a look at this example. This example actually renders this below. Okay. Yeah, so I'll just pause here just for a quick while for you to take a look at this. Okay, we'll come back to this in a short while. Okay, but just remember this as we move on to the next slide. Okay. Okay. Okay, so just now, okay, just let me just paste back the text that we just saw just now. So what we saw just now was something like this, right? Yeah, right. Right, so that was the example that we saw just now. So the basic building blocks of HTML are elements. The elements includes the content. So what is the content in this case? Our content will be this portion here. So this is the content that you can see, the hello world, right? So this matches up to this content that you see. Okay, so the content in this example that we are looking at is called hello world, right? Then there's an opening tag as well as a closing tag, all right? Okay, normally in a class I would ask, what's the difference, but since this webinar is a bit difficult, okay, but I hope you can spot the difference between the opening tag and the closing tag. Okay, I'll explain it in a short while. Okay, but this is the opening tag, right? It corresponds to this one down here, and this is the closing tag. It corresponds to this. And the whole thing is called an element. Okay, to be very clear, there are a few rules that you have to take note of, okay? One of the rules is that if you notice, this tag name and this tag name are the same. So that means that in our example, the H1 here is exactly the same as this H1 behind. But the difference is that in the closing tag, we added the extra slash to make this the closing tag. Okay, So maybe let me just type the text below one more time, all right? Because without all the arrows looking at it, so you can see. Okay, so if you look closely at this example, you can see that H1 is the tag name, right? The content is hello world. Then the closing tag behind has an extra slash behind, and it's also mirrored. It's also the same H1. Okay, right. Just before I move on, let me just flip back to the previous slide to show you how it looked like, all right? Just to show you that's exactly what we did. So if you write it correctly, the result that you get is that, okay, so H1 basically means a header at level 1. So you can see that it's actually a little bit bigger than usual and it's bold, right? So that's the result that you can see at the bottom. Okay, for this, what we're going to do next is we're going to actually try this out, okay? So let me just give you a website to go to. Okay, so let me just paste this in the chat, right? Let me just open this first. Okay, right. Okay, so what we are doing is that okay, I'll explain that platform in a short while. Okay, but what we are doing is that we are using this platform to actually do our testing to try out, right? So it's a closed environment. You can practice your coding, okay, but unfortunately this doesn't persist. You can't save this somewhere unless you log in or something. All right, but we're not going to do that for now. It's just going to let us practice our coding. Okay. Okay. In addition, I'm going to give you a cheat sheet. All right, just give me a while. Let me just copy this and paste it in the link. Okay. All right. Into the chat. Sorry. Okay. So this is the coding portion. As you can see at the bottom, this is what your browser is going to show you. All right. Okay, so at this juncture, we are not interested in the JavaScript or the CSS, right? So we can close these browsers. What you can do, okay, so if you haven't gone to this page, could you please open a new tab into this page, all right? And you can close the browsers by clicking the borders and shifting them to the right-hand side or the left-hand side. It's up to you. Basically, they will just close up that way. So you can shift both of these so that you can just see more on HTML. You can also adjust this as well if you need to see more of the content. Okay, right. So I'll leave this for now. All right. So I hope you just close up the JS and the CSS for now. We'll come back to them at some other time. All right. We'll just come back and see what else we're supposed to do here. Okay. So as you noticed just now, without HTML, that means you notice this portion here. This is just text, right? It's all just a bit of text, right? They all produce text that renders at the same level. So even though we know this looks like a heading, this looks like a paragraph, etc., these are not visible, right? So we want to create some hierarchy and structure to our site. So we need to indicate which text is a heading, a subheading, or with different levels, or just paragraphs, right? So this is what we're going to do using these. Oh, sorry, this text, right? Okay, as you can see on the right hand side, these are the examples that you can use, right? So this is H1, right? So if you do a H1, this will give you a main heading. Okay, the headings go up from levels 2 to 6, although usually we probably use up to 3 or 4, right? It's seldom necessary to go up to 6 levels of heading. Okay, but this is possible. So usually use this as subheading. So they'll be slightly smaller. So 2 is slightly smaller than 1, 3 is slightly smaller than 2, etc. Right? And paragraphs are denoted with this P, right? Programmers are pretty lazy, so we don't like to spell everything out. So that's why headings is just H and paragraphs is just P. All right. So what we want to do is to use what we've seen here and actually produce a shorter version of a nicer version of the structure of the website, right? Let me just clear this first. And what we want you to try for the next 3 minutes is to try to get this website here, the one in the code pen, to look like this. Just the first part, right? There's more below, but just step 1. We just want this portion here to, oh sorry, that's too much. Just this portion here to look just like this picture. Okay, so currently it's 12:28, so maybe we'll take maybe three minutes or 4 minutes. Okay, so let's come back at 12:32. All right, I'll just give you a few minutes to do this. All right. Okay, so you're supposed to make the CodePen website look like a slide. You can use the cheat sheet, all right? Because unfortunately, you don't have access to my whole slide, so you're not able to toggle back to see it. But if you had clicked, this one, you can see that this is the cheat sheet that we have. So it basically shows you how to do headings as well as paragraphs. So maybe you want to give this a try for until 12:32, right? Right, hope that wasn't too difficult. All right, as I mentioned in the chat, don't worry too much if you can't get it, because I will be able to just show it to you through a demonstration right now, all right? Okay, so let's take a look at what we have to do, all right? As you can see, the first thing we need to do is to make my first website a bigger header, right? So based on the cheat sheet, we can see that to make something bigger, we need to put the text in front and behind using a H1. So if that, let's do that. All right, so we just put this, okay, and we can put this H1 here and this H1 behind. Okay, once you've typed finish, all right, basically the website below will show you the new version according to what you have written, okay? Maybe I'll just make a few comments at this point. It's quite easy to make a mistake. For example, some of you might not have used the right closing tag. That means you've got to add that slash, all right? If you did that, let's just see what happens if you forgot that slash. Right, you can see that now everything will change into a header, right? So that's one of those mistakes. So if you remember just now I mentioned coding is actually about you practicing and typing text. And if you make mistakes, then things like this happen and you have to fix your mistakes. So hopefully you realize that the problem here is you're missing that slash, so you can just put that extra slash in, okay? Right, so that gives you the first header. So if we look back at our current picture, the second one is going to be a paragraph. So if we look at this, paragraphs are just a simple P. So we are just going to code that in with a P here, and we just put a P, oops, sorry, small p, all right, and another small p behind. Okay, yes, and we can see that this gives us a second paragraph. Okay, so actually for learning programming, this is actually the first step. The first step is you look at something that has been done before, like this example in our cheat sheet, and then you basically try to apply it according to what you want to do. In this case, we want to change our previous one into this picture that we see down here, right? So to do that, let's move on. The next one is actually also a header, but I think if you notice, this header is slightly smaller than this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this another header, but a slightly smaller version. So if you put it as the same size version as in the H1, you will see that, again, if you put something like this, okay, like you typo like this, you realize that that also happens. Okay, so you have to make sure that everything that you mentioned for the tag has to be exactly the same, both at the front and the back. So this both has to be H1. Right. Yeah. So if you notice these two are exactly the same size, okay, which technically works if that's what you want to do, but most of the time you probably wanted this to be, according to the picture, to be a slightly smaller one. So you want this as a H2 or H3. All right. So it can be a 2 or a 3 if you want it even slightly smaller. Right. So it's up to you. So H2 will do. And finally, for the last one, we can add this. Okay, I should stay at this point. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can just add the P here and add this P to get to this. Okay, so with that, this portion of the website now looks exactly like our slides. Okay, so don't worry, we'll be going through a few more of these, all right? So I'll just give you some time to code it out. If you can't do it, I'll just walk through the demo and show you how it's done after that, right? And I'll release a solution at the end as well. Okay. Right. Okay. Right, if that's okay, let's move on to the next part of our website, okay? The next part of our website is going to be another element that we're going to add, and this time it's called a list. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to show you the element first. Okay, so this example, as you can see, looks like this. This is a list. This first one is an unordered list, and the second one is an ordered list. Okay, but before that, let's talk about something called a list item. Okay, so a list item is a LI, right? So if you stare at this example, okay, you can see that this is a list item. Okay, so is this as well, all right? And if you compare this to the header that we did just now, maybe I just type the header here very quickly. Right, you'll see that it has the same type of structure. It has the same type of structure. It has an opening tag, it has a content, and it has a closing tag. Just like this one has an opening tag, the same closing tag with a slash, and the content is Monday. Okay, so a list item is basically the same as a header, except that it represents one item inside our list. Okay, so the difference between the ordered list and the unordered list is that the unordered lists come with plain bullets, right? And the ordered list comes with numbers. So it will be numbered 1, 2, and 3 versus the other one, which is usually a disk or square or something, right? Right, okay. If you look, okay, so the only difference between the first example and the second example is basically this portion down here, where it's either an unordered list or an ordered list. Okay, at this junction, let's take a look at this ordered list example. You can see that the ordered list example actually can be thought of as something like this: an ordered list, and okay, sorry, something like this, right? So you can clearly see that this structure mirrors the top one as well. There's also a corresponding opening tag, corresponding closing tag, and there is some content in the middle. The only difference is that this content in the middle is a bit more complicated. It's actually this portion here, which is all three of these list items in the middle. Right, so this portion here actually, oh, sorry, wrong annotation. This portion here actually refers to this portion that you see here. Okay, I think if you have any questions, you can always just post them into the Q&A section part. All right, I can always just answer them later. All right, whenever we are doing a break, when you are doing some coding or something. Okay, so with that, let me just explain what we want you to do. All right, I hope this is clear what an unordered list versus an ordered list is like. Okay, so what we want you to do next is to do the next part, which is to return to our code pen. And in step 2, we are going to add the text to add them to become an ordered list like this, or an unordered list like this. Okay, so I'll leave it to you to decide which one you like, right? It doesn't matter to us, all right? So you can just try either the ordered list or the unordered list, right? So same thing, let's try this in about 3 minutes. Use the cheat sheet as well, all right? Okay, so I will just turn on some music and then let you all try it until 12:44. Okay, right. Hope you managed to do that. Let me just show you how we can do this. Okay, so this is part 2, right? So I'll just scroll down first, right? So we need to make this portion, instead of just looking like this, like make it a header, right? Or a list. Okay, so let's do, I guess I'll do the ordered list since that lets you see the numbers. So we'll put the ordered list and just add the list headings both in front and behind. Sorry, just wait for me to type it out. Okay. As you can see, as we are doing it, that the headings are already starting to come out. So you can see this is the second heading, and the last heading will be this one, right? And they're all numbered, right? So you can see them as 1, 2, and 3, right? So this is still here because we haven't closed off the list. So we must remember to always add an ending tag, not only just the opening tag. Okay. So after we did this, we should be able to see that we get the 3 paragraphs, and this is now in a separate page by its own. Okay. Right. Hopefully that wasn't too complicated again. Okay. Okay, wait. Maybe just for those who are having problems with this, I'll just paste them into the chat. Okay, so this is the first version, and I'll paste the second step as well into the chat. So in case you didn't get it, you could just copy and paste this over. Okay. Right. Let's moving on. There are a few more things we want to try out. Okay. The next thing we're going to try is we're going to add hyperlinks. Okay. So hyperlinks are basically the obvious the typical text that when you click, it leads you to another page. Okay. However, in the standard, the HTML standard, we don't call them hyperlinks. They're actually called anchors. Okay. So because we anchor a link, as in this case, this link that we want to a piece of text that the user can click on. Okay. So, but where does the link go? All right. To make the anchor link, right, just makes this link clickable, right? But it doesn't say where to go. So to make something happen, you realize that this needs more information, right? So it's like most of you will say that if you click this, you're likely to go to Amazon. But how is it supposed to know that this is supposed to go to Amazon and not Google, right? Because our computers are not smart enough to read the words here, right? So what do so in this case, we need a little bit more information. Let's take a look at the next slide first, all right? Okay, so we have this thing called attributes, right? Attributes are additional information that we add to an element. They appear in the opening tag of the element. So you notice the attribute is here, right? This whole thing is called the attribute, and it appears in this portion, which is the opening tag, right? This is the opening tag of the element, right? So there are two parts to this. The attribute is made up of a name and a value. They are separated by equal sign. So this is the equal sign, right? And this separates the name, as you can see in pink, and the value in green. The name tells you what kind of extra information you're supplying, all right? So href is actually telling them that this link will go, where is it supposed to go to? And the value is the information. In this case, this is the endpoint that you want to go to. Okay, you can't make up your own names, all right? So for each attribute that we have, they have to have specific names. That means you can't just say go to, for example, and use the word go to here, and they will even know that's where you're supposed to go. You have to use the word href, okay? Okay, so with that, hopefully that's not too complicated. Then what we want you to do is to just add a hyperlink for the next step, okay? So if you look at the next slide, what we want is just this portion at the bottom. So we want to add a hyperlink to another website. We gave you an example in the source of the code pen, all right? Okay, but you can use the cheat. You can basically add it to any place you want. Okay. So okay, this shouldn't be too difficult because it's quite easy. So let's probably try this in 2 minutes. Right. So in 12:51, let's come back. Right, welcome back. I hope that wasn't too difficult. Right, let's just see how do we add this link. Okay, so based on the cheat sheet, the way that we add the link is we just so this one, right? So we just add A, which stands for anchor, and we put a href and we put our URL here. All right, and whatever we surround is the text of the link. So let's go to step 3. Let's add the A. All right, so if you just do this, you can see that that would make okay. Right, so this will now be an anchor, but it doesn't let you click until you add the href, right? So add the href, and you can add this. Let's just use the example that's here. Yeah, and once it reloads, you can see that this will give you this. So you can open it in a new tab to just check that it goes to some other place, right? Obviously, you can change this to your own website or something if you want to make a different link somewhere else. Okay. Right. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Just remember, you can always refer back to the cheat sheet. Okay. All right. So let's move on to this one. Okay. Now we're going to do add images. Right. So images also require attributes. Okay. So images are a little bit different. Okay. So because I think most of us are familiar with Word, when we want to take an image, we just copy and paste the whole image into Word, and the image will be embedded inside the Word. Okay, but that's not how HTML works. Okay, so HTML doesn't, because it's text, it doesn't allow you to put the whole image inside, at least not easily. So what happens is that when we add an image tag, we need them to tell how to extract the image from somewhere else. Okay, so usually when you're coding, it's likely to be a folder where you store other assets. Okay, but you can also grab images from the website as well. All right, as in those that somebody else put on the internet. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at this example here. You can see that this is image, all right? It has two attributes. Well, first one is this, let me just highlight this. This is the image attribute, all right? And this is another one, which is the alternate attribute, all right? So there are two of them, all right? They are separated by a little space here, right? So there's a little space, oops, sorry, wrong annotation. A little space here that separates the two of them. Okay, I'm sure you can guess that SLC means where the image is. SLC stands for source, all right? So they tell you that this is at this particular location where the kitten image is, okay? So what's this alternate? Okay, the alternate tag doesn't show up in your browser, or most of the time, right? You won't see the word kitten appear, all right? But these are usually read by robots, okay? So these are robots that when you, for example, when Google searches your website, they use a robot to search your website, and obviously robots can't tell that this is a kitten picture, right? So they will use this information to know that this is a kitten. This is one reason. The other reason is, again, remember I told you about people who are visually impaired. So people who are visually impaired, obviously they cannot see the kitten as well. So you need to put the you should, right? You should put the alternative word tag there so that they know what the picture is about. Otherwise, they will just see a picture, but they don't know what it is, right? As you can imagine, I mean, this one, you could sort of tell it's kitten because of the word, but you can, I'm sure you've seen some pictures where the URL comes from some very odd places and you can't tell that that is actually a kitten, all right? Okay, so with that, let me just clear this, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to do the last part 4. We are going to add this cat picture to the website, right? So we're going to add the cat picture to the website. Okay, again, if you're having problems, please try to use the cheat sheet, right? So use this cheat sheet. If you've forgotten, you can scroll back up, right? I think I tagged it as cheat sheet, so you can look at this and see how to use this to go along, okay? All right? Right. Okay, so again, this is quite easy, so maybe 2 minutes. So let's come back at 57. Right, thank you for asking questions. All right, like I said, during the breaks when we are coding, I'll try to answer the questions as best as I can. All right, but sometimes, unfortunately, I can't solve problems over the internet, especially in this webinar, since I can't see your screens and everything. So if you're having problems, I think let's try to look at this. Okay, so let's see how does this work. How do we actually add a picture? So let's look at the cheat sheet. The cheat sheet tells us that this is the picture, right? So it's img, right? That tells us image is the how we use the tag, and this is SRC. SRC tells us where the picture is going to be, and author is the description of the tag. Okay, so let me just do that here now. So step 4, right? We now have this. Okay, so we're going to copy what I just saw. So I need an image. I need to put SRC equals something, and then I need to put alternate equals something, right? And close this. This juncture, you'll notice that oops, let's let it wait. Okay, you don't see the image, right? Because obviously we didn't put the URL of the image inside. Okay, yeah. So your okay, let's put the image picture inside, which is this one. Okay. Right. Okay. Right. So that gives us the cat image, right, that you see here. Okay. Okay. Like I said, you should write the word kitten here, even though you don't see it. Okay, so even though I wrote the word kitten here, you're not going to see the word kitten appear here. All right. So what is this used for? Like I mentioned just now, is for there are 2 main purposes. The first purpose is allows robots as well as people visually impaired who use screen readers to see this web page and know that this picture, which, because you see, right, from this URL, that is, you can't tell it's a kitten at all. All right. So this lets them know that this is a kitten. Okay, there is another use for this. All right. So I think some of you noticed before, let's say, for example, you put this website put this image on the website, but then you come back to it sometime later, somebody took away the image or something. So, or maybe you made a typo like this, right? So I'm missing a F at the end. You notice that I get this, all right? I'm sure most of you have seen this. This is a website telling you this is a broken image. That means there's an image that is supposed to be there, but for some reason it's not available now, or you typoed it, right? In this case, this will allow you to put the word kitten here. So this also helps in that sense. So in the case where somebody removes the image, right, at least you still have the alternate to know, so that people will know that you wanted to put a picture of a kitten here, but now it's gone now because of some reason. Okay, I hope that makes it more clear now. Why do you have an alternate as well as a SLC source, right? Okay. Right. Okay. Before I move on, let me just quickly say that actually this webinar was designed to be a 2-hour one, just the one that we usually run. But because in here we only have 1.5 hours, I'm going to skip this portion of the lab. All right. We'll share this. I'm sure that eventually they'll share the slides with you all, so you can actually go and try to do this on your own. All right. So I'm going to skip this portion because I want to move on to something that you can try before we end the Q&A. Right. So I'm just going to skip us, and we're going to go to CSS. All right. Okay, sorry. In that case, right. So let me just copy this link, and yeah, I will just paste the link inside, and I'll give you. Yeah, you probably want to take a snapshot of this picture, I guess. All right. Right. And let me just copy this as well. Okay. So this is a picture of. This will tell you what we want you to do. Okay. So so this picture is here. So basically the website at the end doesn't look like this. We want you to make it to look like that, okay? So yeah, so there's a solution. I'll paste the solution code later. All right, so let me just move on to CSS first, right? Okay. Okay, at this point, our page, the one that we did just now, looks okay. It works, it's a website, but it looks like something that came from 1990s, you know, if you're around looking at the web then. All right, so we're trying to make it prettier, right? So we need CSS, right? So that's what you're trying to do. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. Okay, HTML is the bones, right? So CSS is the skin. We are going to use CSS to describe to the browser how the element should be displayed. Okay, so let's take a look at this page. This, on the left-hand side, you can see that this is the HTML, what we wrote previously, a paragraph tag. This is the output that we want to see, a red color welcome sign, all right? But how do we do that? We do that using CSS. So this portion here that you're looking at is the CSS. Okay. Before I move on, let me just very quickly look at this example and explain to you how it looks like, okay? So there's 3 parts to this. First part is this part that tells you what is this. So this mirrors this one. So it's telling us that we are going to change the P, all the paragraph text to this thing, all right? So the second part is this portion here that shows us what we are going to do with it. So these are key value pairs, right? So you notice that they are separated by a colon, and this is the name and this is the value. Okay, so maybe I will just clear this first, and I'll show you more on the next slide, right? Because it's a bit more clearly blocked out. Okay, so the CSS consists of a selector. So this is the selector, which is P. Then we have a declaration block. This tells us what we want to do. Again, you can't make this up. All right. So in this case, I know because most of us live in Singapore, this is color. We spell it with a U, but because the standard is Americanized, so you have to drop the U. You have to spell it without the U in this case. Okay. So you can't randomly make up these things. These have to be exactly what is stated up here. Again, your coding cheat sheet will also give you a sense of what is the things that you can write. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of them here. We will go through some of them. Okay, again, it's also a lab. We will go through it in a short while. Oops, sorry. Okay, so we're going to try to make our previous one a little bit more colorful, all right? Okay, so, right, so we'll go back to the initial one, which is this one that you had, right? This is the one that you had. We are going to try to change the color of something, all right? So as I mentioned just now, because of the standard, this has to be color, as in without the U, right? Both for the color as well as the background color. Background color refers to the color behind the text. So by default, the text is black, right? As you can see here, the text is always black. The background color is white. Okay, so in this case, when you change the background color, it becomes another color, as well as this one changes the text color, right? Because this one has a H1 inside. Okay, as you can see, the colors can be two types. You can always specify the color as a hex value, which is this hex thing. Okay, how are you supposed to know? Okay, to be honest, I also don't know. If you ask me what is hex 22475E, I will not know what color that is. Usually I will Google for hex color picker, all right? And then something like this, and then you can just choose maybe this one, right? And you basically can pick a color, yeah, and you get this color. So this color is actually this color here. So if you want this will be the hex value accordingly. Yeah, so there are a lot of color pickers online, right? You just have to search for them and just use them. Okay, having said that, there are also a few fixed colors like green, blue, green, yellow, blue, you know, the sort of primary colors that will work. Okay, so there are some text that will work as well. So that's the example that we see here. So you can see that in this case, this example is green, and this is this hex color one, right? So you can use either or, okay? Okay, so what we want you to do is to use your initial one and get it to look like the next page, right? So again, please use sorry, not this one, the cheat sheet to help you to figure out. We will give you the color codes. Okay, so what we want you to do is to make the background of the color this, as well as to make the text color this, right? So let me just give you a while. Let me just copy and paste this inside. Then I will scroll back to the previous one so that you have a sense of what to do. Sorry, yeah, just give me a short while. Okay, let me just paste this into the chat. Okay, so that's what we want to do. If you did it correctly, you end up with this, okay? All right, but I think I'm just going to show you this example so that you know what to write, right? Okay, so let's take another 2 minutes for this. Okay, so hopefully you managed to get that done. Okay, so sorry, I forgot to mention, if you wanted the CSS, you probably need to pull out the CSS portion. Otherwise, you can't write the CSS. So you're supposed to write them here. All right, so we're no longer interested in the HTML. We need to continue with the CSS. So we need to make the background color of the website that, and so as the text color this. Okay, so the text color is a bit easier. Okay, so as you can see, if let's say I choose H1, remember, based on what you're supposed to write, we're supposed to write selector. Okay, so let's put H1, we will put this, and let's say we choose color and we put this symbol. All right, that means that, as you can see, only the H1 will change because this is the only H1 that is. Okay, we can add more. All right, so this will allow the H2s to also be, I think it's a H3 though. All right, so yeah, only the H3 would be this. And if you want the paragraphs, we could continue adding on, and the paragraphs will also change color. Okay, you might find this a bit tedious. All right, so there's a cheat way of doing this. The cheat way is that basically everything in the HTML is captured inside the body. So you can use body, and that will change everything. As you can see, even the LIs below. All right, previously, let me just put this back. You can see that these don't change because these are not either of these combinations. So we can just put body and everything will change to that color. Okay, so that also means that we can also add the background color. So the background color is 224E, all right? Background color. Oops, didn't copy the. Yeah, so okay, I forgot to mention the semicolon is also very important. I don't know if you all noticed there's a semicolon after each one. All right, if you miss out the semicolon like just now when I did this, you'll notice that it didn't work. Okay, so sometimes programming, when you're coding, the errors you make could be very, very small. And this could be as simple as you just forgot a simple semicolon somewhere. Okay, so as you can see, this now gives us the same picture as what we saw in this example, right? Okay, sorry, let me just go through one more quick one, all right? Okay, so this has to do with typefaces. That means, okay, I know most of you are familiar with Word or PowerPoint or something. So most of the time, if you want to align the text face, you basically go in front and press a button to make the text face align, right? In HTML and CSS, the only way you do this is that you need to specify the actual properties of all of this, okay? I think this is probably going to be our last exercise. Let me do this and then we'll do a quick, I'll show you another quick one after that if I have time. And then we'll see what comes. So this is, okay. So the problem here is that unlike Word, it is not visual. You have to know that if you want to make something center, you have to use the property called text align. If you want something capitalized, you need to use the property called text transform. All right. Just like you want to make something bold, you have to know it's font width and not font size or font style. Okay, so that's the unfortunate thing about programming. You need to memorize or have a cheat sheet next to you. So again, like I said, that's the reason why we gave you this cheat sheet to look at. All right, so let's see if we can very quickly try, maybe just try 2 of these items. All right, you don't have to do all. All right, let's try this in about 1 or 2 minutes. Right? Let's try this for 2 minutes. Just try as many as you can, right? Okay, right. Okay, I'm sorry, I think I forgot to paste some of the other examples. So let me just go back and just paste the link. All right. So this is the answer for the link, as well as the image as well. So that some people who didn't manage to get it will be able to get it to work. I think some people asking how to get this image on the next line. You can just put this into a paragraph. All right. So you just put this in a paragraph and it should appear on the next line. Oops, sorry. Okay, so then, yeah, so as you can see, it's now on the next line, just that my image is still broken because I didn't put back the GIF. Okay. Right. Okay, unfortunately, I don't have time to show you everything. So let's say I'm supposed to italicize your paragraph text. Okay, so if we go back and take a look at, sorry, let me just go back to the previous slide. So if you want to italicize, this is under font style. So you just need to come here and choose. Okay, so we want font style for paragraph text, right? So we'll just put the paragraph text and we'll say font style is sorry, yeah, I usually you have to type it exactly, so you can't typo here, all right? Otherwise it will not give you the right result. Okay, so it's italic, ITALC. Okay. Right. Yeah, so you can see that makes it italicized, right? So you can imagine that the rest of it is just choosing the right one to do it, and you'll be able to set the size, change the title of your text, as well as underline the line items. Okay, right. I think okay. Wait, let me just paste this inside, all right, our chat so that we can see this. Okay. Okay, maybe I'll just do one more very quickly, right, before I move on to another demo. Okay, let's say I want to, okay, let's say I want to center the title of my page. So because I know the title, this one is a H1, I can just basically use a H1 to target this. And based on what we have here, text align is, okay, so center is what we want. Justify means you'll fill up all the way to the end if it's long enough, okay? So that's what we want here. So it's text align, sorry, and center. Is it ER? Yeah, okay, because this is America, right? Okay, so it's ER, okay. Right, so that gives us the text align in the center, all right? Right. Tell you what, if I have time, I'll fill up the other two examples that I missed out, okay? In the meantime, I will just paste this as well, and you can give it a try for the rest. Okay. Sorry. Okay, because the next part is a bit involved, I think what I'll do is I'll just show you a demonstration. All right, I don't think we have time to actually let you do this. Okay, but let me explain what we're trying to do. Okay, so so at the end, if you did it correctly, this is the end result. Okay. Okay. Okay, you can change the font that renders on the page using the font family property. Okay. Okay, so that means you can choose sans serif, Arial, or Georgia, or Times New Roman, or Comic Sans, all this. Okay, but there's a problem with this. The problem is this: as a default, the browser only displays fonts that are already downloaded on the computer they're using. So in this case, I'm on my Mac. All right, so obviously I don't have some of the Windows fonts. Similarly, somebody on Windows will not have a Mac font. All right, so if you are relying on the fact that you are trying to use a font or use an exotic font, then only you will see the effect, because only your computer, if it has downloaded the font, then you'll be able to see it if you use a font family. All right. So we need some way to do this. Okay. So we are going to show you how to do it. I'll just run through a quick demonstration. Okay. So what we're going to do is I want two special fonts. Okay. Railway and Letter. All right. I will just demonstrate this to you. I don't think I have time to let you try this out. Okay. So we need to go to Google Fonts. Right. So let's come here, we search for Google Fonts. You can follow along if you can, all right? But yeah, right. So we will come to Google Fonts. Okay. So let's see. Right. So now we want to search for a particular font, right? So we search for. Oops, sorry, forgot I can't click here. Railway, right? So let's look for this. Let's search for railway. Okay. So we search for this. Let's close this first. So you get two versions. You choose the one you want. Then you also need to know which style you want. Do you want it as a light 300, this style, or do you want the medium 500 or this style? Or okay, so just let's say I like the regular 400. I'll select this style. When you press this, it says it appears somewhere. Where does it go? It goes into this button here. If you go to the top right, if you click this, you'll notice that now you have this. Okay, so let me just remove this and show it to you again one more time. So let's say I'm interested in the extra light style, so I'll choose this. Okay, then if I go back up to the top and I look at this, you can see that I've chosen the railway extra light style. Okay, so with that, you can actually do more styles. You can just go back and add a new one. In this case, we want Leto, right? Okay, so let's choose Leto. Obviously, you can search for any style that Google happens to have, right? So let's choose Leto, and let's say you like the bold 700 italic. Okay, so you choose this. So again, once you press this button, it will appear here. All right. Okay. Once you are done choosing, in this example, we are using only two fonts. All right, it's possible we could add 3 or 4 different fonts. Okay, however, as designer will tell you, if you use too many fonts, it makes your website a little bit jarring, very hard to read. Okay, but anyway, it's up to you. Okay, the next step you want to do is to choose the word import, the one below here. So you notice that this gives you this portion of code. Okay, basically you can take this portion and copy it and paste it. Okay, actually we already did it. So if you didn't notice up here, right, we already copied this for you. Okay, so this is the solution, so to speak. If you want a font, okay, there are two parts to this. The first part is you need to do this to download the font so that your browser will be able to show the fonts. Then you also need the previous step, which is to set the font family. Okay, so as a demonstration, let me just demonstrate, because we already did it already. So now I can actually go to here and set the font family to, so this is for my paragraphs, right? So let's see, what do I call it? Leto, right? Okay, so Leto. Yeah. Okay, it's a very subtle change, but you notice that now the paragraphs are this font rather than the previous font. Right, so that's how it works. Okay, you could also change it to railway if you want. Railway. Right, but remember, this doesn't work if you didn't add this line before. Okay, so if you don't have this line, what happens is that you won't see the change. It will just be whatever the normal font is. So if you notice, even if I took away this one, it still looks the same, right? Yeah, because obviously I'm on my Mac here and I don't have those fonts as well, right? So the important thing is you have to make sure that you ask Google. Usually we use Google because it's free, and we download the fonts, and then we can then use the font family. Okay. Okay. Right. Right. So sorry. Unfortunately, I don't have time to let you try this portion. All right. Normally we will let, like I said, this was meant for a longer session. All right. So if you have time, you can try and use the railway or some other fonts of your own. Right? It doesn't really matter. All right. You can follow what I just did. But just to finish it off, let me just paste this in so that people can try it out. Yeah. Right, so if you did it correctly, you'll end up looking like this, okay? Okay, again, we also happen to have another lab, but I'm going to skip that as well, okay, because we don't have time. Right, as you can see, it's a running joke that most of the time you have to spend your time fixing very small things, right? I don't know how many of you try this out, but you saw, right? Just even a simple, just because you missed out a semicolon, right, somewhere, or you forgot a colon here, right? This will not work. So now notice it's now not at the size, right? Just because you missed out a certain one, or it could be you missed out this one, and then everything will not work as well, right? So being a developer, 90% of the time, especially when you're learning, right, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and the mistakes could be very subtle. It could be as simple as what you saw, just a missing punctuation mark somewhere. Okay, yeah, but the whole point is you persist with this, right? You go search online, try and look for answers, right? Then you'll be able to know how to do this well. All right. Okay, so with that, let me end up with, okay, so this is another exercise. Okay, sorry, let me just skip that. Okay. Okay, hopefully most of you managed to do enough of the website to get through this. Okay, so when you're starting out in the field, it's pretty confusing to figure out what kind of track you want to pursue, right? So here's a quick overview of the main type of developers and what they do and the language they often need. Okay, so as you can see, being a front-end developer, you probably need to be good at what we just showed you, right? JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Okay, I think some people are asking about some of the logic behind. Unfortunately, because we didn't do any of the languages in the backend like PHP, Java, Ruby, etc. So unfortunately, we don't have the time to show you that. Okay, so we are skipping that part. Okay, if you're a full stack developer, that means you're both able to work in the front and the backend. All right. So our course technically teaches you to be a full stack one. It just needs some time for you to do it, but it's a full-time immersion course over 12 weeks. Okay, and with that, I think I'll pass back to Hong to finish off the session.
All right, thank you very much, Simon. If you can move on to the next slide for me, that would be great. Oh, sorry for this one. I think it was supposed to be software engineering, but we do have a lot of courses coming up. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the event, we do have immersive. So immersive is our term for full-time. So for those of you who are looking very seriously into breaking into software engineering, you probably would want to take a full-time course to equip yourself with all of the tools and the applications that Simon has gone through. Like today it's really just a teaser. I mean, our software engineering is around 12-week full-time or 24-week part-time. So they are very, very intensive, and you'll be able to have a working knowledge of all of these applications to be able to enable you to break into software engineering. We also do have that in a part-time format. Again, this might not be sufficient for you to break into software engineering just yet because it's not as intensive as a full-time course, but it's at least giving you enough knowledge to understand what exactly is software engineering about. And all of these are beginner level programs, so we have no prerequisite for them, and you can just check out with our admission producer to get to know that a little bit better. So in terms of our upcoming cohorts, we do have quite a few coming ups over here. So I think these are more or less just our current numbers at the moment. But if you are very keen to get into that, you should reach out to us at singapore_admissions@qa.co just to get to talk to our admission producers first, for them to share with you what exactly are the courses that are coming up and whether you'll be able to qualify for them. But yeah, do reach out to us. The email is in the chat. And I think that's about it from there. Sorry, this is the email that I was talking about. It's also in the chat. It is easier for you to grab it from there. Just reach out to us, share with us your career aspirations, career goals, and our admissions team will be able to best advise you, whether software engineering is the way to go for you, or maybe you're better suited for UX design, for example, or data science.